Hello, my beautiful PhD friends. So today we're going to talk about how to finish a PhD thesis quickly. What I did to finish this beast of a book in 2 months, and you can do the same. Just takes a bit of discipline. Let's talk about that. If you're new to this channel, please remember to subscribe because I'm going to talk about everything PhD, thesis, student careers, life after a PhD, postdocs, everything to help you on your PhD career journey. I've done it and I want to share that with you, so please subscribe. Okay, let's talk about finishing your thesis quickly and all of the things you can do. Look at this. A big old thesis with words and graphs and images. That's one of my favorites, by the way. I made that in Word. Just so many things, so much to do, and it can feel overwhelming. To get to this, remember, I write 1 page at a time, 1 word at a time, 1 letter at a time. And so you need to get to here by the little steps. So let's talk about that. Writing a PhD thesis normally happens at the end of your PhD sort of career. And that means maybe in the sort of 2.5, 3.5 to 4 year mark. That's when you're like, okay, I've got enough data. Now I need to write a thesis. If you haven't already, you should have an introduction, which is kind of like a literature review, which is done early on. But over the 3 years that you're doing your PhD, that kind of moves on a lot. So you really have to revisit that again. But yeah, there's so much that you can do and so much you have to do to get a PhD thesis finished. And it's overwhelming, right? There's no two ways about it. This is a very big, overwhelming thing, but you really need to just focus. And let's talk about that. The number 1 tip that I've got is to absolutely own your day, right? When you say, okay, I am ready to write a thesis, I am ready to put down the words, write the graphs, do the things, you have to create a day that will get you there, right? There's no good sort of waking up, starting later. You really have to take this seriously, and that is something that I did when I was like, okay, now I finished my experiments, I am here to write, and write is the only thing that will get me to the end of the kind of thesis writing stage and the end of my PhD, which in itself is very exciting. So here's what I've got. First of all, you have to be disciplined with yourself, okay? So what I recommend you do is look at an average day. Look at one of your days and say, what do I need to do to get to a thesis? And the answer is very simple. Produce graphs, produce images, and write. Those are the 3 things you should limit yourself to. The main one being writing, right? You have to just write words out about the graphs, about your data, about your results. All of the other stuff, the data analysis should already be done at this point. So at this point, we're kind of turning them into nice little graphs. We're turning them into nice little schematics, and we're writing words about those things. So what I recommend you do is produce a day that will get you to your thesis goal, which is I will sit down first thing in the morning and write for 1.5 hours, right? First thing. Then I'll have a little bit of a break, and then I'll write again for another hour. Then I'll have lunch, and then I'll sit down and write again for another 1.5 hours. Then I'll have a break. Then I'll sit down again and do another hour, right? That's what my routine looked like, and I did that for 2 months straight without a break. Monday through Sunday, I just wrote words, and that's what I did. So you need discipline, you need an accountability buddy, you need a way to keep track of those things. And look, having a calendar and just marking it off on the calendar will be your biggest friend here. Number 2 is you have to get buy-in from your supervisor. Supervisors are really difficult to work with in general. I was incredibly unfortunate. My supervisor was just phenomenal. She got me back all of the stuff I needed on time without any fuss. It was just incredible, and I thank her so much for that. But I've had other people, other friends doing PhDs who just have so much issue with their PhD supervisor. They disappear, they don't get things back on time. So the thing you need to do is sit down and have a hard chat with your supervisor. And if you need to, get the head of school in as well. Sit down and say, right, My goal is to finish this thesis within this time frame, 3 months. And from you, I need you to commit to getting me back revisions really quickly and also dedicating time every couple of days to look over what I've produced and just give me some feedback. There is no way you can do this without your thesis. And the number one reason I've seen people delay their submission of their thesis is because their supervisor is still checking over stuff. Now, this isn't in their interest, right, to get you finished quickly, just because they're not marked on that necessarily, and they don't get any rewards because of that. But you should lead that. You should absolutely lead that and make sure that they do buy in to your schedule and they understand exactly what's expected of them before you start writing so that you can finish on time. The third thing is set yourself mini goals. So for 2 months, if you were to say, I'm going to sit down and write this, it's bloody intense. It's so hardcore. But setting yourself little goals to get you there. So for example, my goal every day was I will produce a graph. I will turn that graph into an image, put it into my thesis and write about it. I'll write about it in detail. That was really it. As long as I did that during a morning and an afternoon, I knew I would be on target. So this is about 200 words long, super hardcore. I loved finishing it. I didn't enjoy writing it, but because of the little goals, I set myself up for success along the way. And that's so very important. You need to set up and break down your thesis into little goals so that you can enjoy and celebrate the milestones you're reaching to build up momentum for you to get to the final bit. Because if you just go, when the thesis is done, that's when I'll celebrate, you're in for a world of hurt and pain. So break it down, little goals, and then you'll see significant motivation as you tick off those goals. It could be as well, I got, I think, 10 chapters in here, something like that. I can't even remember. But after each chapter, I would, be like, okay, I'm going to tick off something. In Atomic Habits, they talk about making it obvious and visible. And if you've got, they say paper clips in 2 jars and you move 10 paper clips from one to the other after you've finished each chapter. So you move one across so it looks visible, you see your progress. That can be a great motivator. So read Atomic Habits if you feel like you need a bit of more help with that kind of motivation stuff. The fourth thing I would say is forget the little stuff. As PhD students, the reason you're there is because you love the detail and you can hone in on the detail, and the detail is what you're all about. But in this instance, cracking out the words is all that matters. I don't care, my thesis was poorly written at first until I edited it, just because, and until my supervisor looked at it, just because I was more interested in getting it out there. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. And I know as a student and as someone who's done a PhD, that kills people, right? Because that's not why you're there. You're there because you're the best thinker, you're intricate, you're systematic. But now it's about cranking out those words. So don't let the formatting of a graph get in the way of you writing words. There are a ton of excuses that people come up with, but please just write the words. That's your main thing. If your graph looks a little bit weird, don't worry. As long as it is able to show the data you want it to show, that is all that matters. So please don't get sort of lost and bogged down in the details. Just make sure that you focus on writing those words every single day. Okay, number 5 is just make sure you've got some rest built into your day. The reason I say that is because I did 2 months non-stop, right? I was in the library 6 hours at least a day, and I was writing for the majority of that time, and that's what got me to the finish line. But when I went home, I turned off, I switched off. I didn't drink alcohol to celebrate. I didn't get drunk. I didn't do anything like that, but I just switched off. I spent time with friends and family, didn't talk about the PhD, which meant the next day I was ready to go in and conquer the thesis writing thing all over again, relatively refreshed, get to bed early, look after yourself, eat well. I did eat a lot of chocolate, but when I wasn't eating chocolate, I was eating well and drinking well. I didn't get drunk. I didn't drink alcohol for 2 months. I just made sure that my main goal and focus was this thesis. It takes a little bit of discipline, but with the right people around you and the right support, you'll be able to do it easily. Also, some people find that taking one full day off a week really helps. And so if that's you, I'd recommend taking like a Saturday or a Sunday. But please, for me, I completely lose momentum if I don't do something every day. So that wouldn't have worked for me. Just look at the sort of person you are. You know you better than anyone else. And so if you can, keep it to like resting in the evenings. That's what I did, and I found it really beneficial, and I finished within 2 months. But if you're the sort of person that just needs a whole day to recuperate, lay in bed, do whatever you want, like, you make that decision for you, but make sure you build in rests to your schedule. You are not a machine, you are a human being, despite what all of those supervisors are pushing you to do. So make sure you look after yourself, and part of that is factoring in rest, like evenings or mornings or rest days, full days on the weekend. So make sure you do all of that. That is how you make sure you finish a PhD strong and you have enough reserve energy to edit the stuff as you're going. Or, I would normally write a section, send it to my supervisor, get it back, and in there would be edits, not only for content, but also grammatical stuff as well. It's challenging. There's no two ways about it. So let me know in the comments what your top tips are for finishing a thesis. Here's mine, 2011, University of Newcastle in Australia. It's a beast. It's got loads of awesome graphs, but this is something that I've never really looked at for a long time. But every time I do pick it up, it's a sense of achievement. And to be honest with you, I've completely forgotten about the pain of those 2 months. Now I just see a nice body of work that I'm relatively proud of. And I would love to think that these tips have helped you get closer to achieving that as well. All right, so please remember to subscribe, hit that bell notification if you want more PhD tips, tricks, and all that sort of stuff. And I shall see you in the next video. Have a lovely day and get writing, no excuses.